it's Ellen at Yarn Doc. Usually, before I start to work with a yarn, I video a little introduction to the review because I only have the amount that I'm working with. That is not so with this particular yarn. So as you can see, I have been working away with it already. And there's even more than this. There's a white one that I can't find. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 greens and four more, sorry, four more that actually were categorized as green, but are more blue, teal, that kind of color. And there is a project coming with these too that I'm just about to break into. I went a little crazy in buying this particular yarn. There are strings everywhere. This is the Alize Diva, and every shade of green in the Alize Diva. I don't know what I was thinking. I was just really excited to see the extremely large colorway in a relatively inexpensive acrylic. It is somewhere between a 1 and a 2 weight. You see it there? So, quite thin. I'm doing all kinds of stuff with it because I have so much of it. And I'll give you a little preview. It's easy to work with. It really is. So they're 100-gram balls, and that comes to 350 meters or 383 yards. What else can I tell you about it? It's Oikotech certified. I'm not going to read you the colors because, well, I'd have to do something with it. And right now I'm filming in our library because my office is just packed with the next video that I want to film for you, and I can't fit in it. So you want to tune in for that one. Find out what all that stuff is. What else can I tell you about this before we get going? It's 100% microfiber acrylic. It says all the standard washing things, but I actually have them in the washer right now, and one of them will go into the dryer in about 38 minutes. So we're going to find out whether it really can't be washed, because I really feel like 100% microfiber acrylic should be able to wash and dry. We'll find out if it can. It says iron. There is the world's smallest gauge chart. And this is one thing I will say, there is a hook there that I'm working with. Little teeny tiny 2.1 millimeter. One thing I will say, if you are a knitter and are relying on that gauge swatch, they are really hard to read on these Alize labels. They're so shiny, so if there's any light in the room, which you need to read, it's very reflective, and they're extremely small print. So that is a downside for sure. They are recommending a 2.5 to 3.5 millimeter knitting needles or a 1 to a 3 millimeter crochet hook. This little guy that I'm using here, I'm doing a little, maybe you can even see, Amigurumi sample. Hating my life doing it. Those of you who are gifted artists at it, God bless you. You're amazing, incredible. I think I'm inventing new words to exclaim as I'm doing it. Uh, but I digress. That comes later. That comes later. Stay tuned. When I was actually working with it for wearables, I used a 4 millimeter. No, I used a 3.75. 3.75. That's what I used. Yeah. I don't usually have that information at this point. So it says silky effect. You can see it does have um, a sheen to it. It does feel silky in the ball. Um, what else can I tell you? I don't know that there's anything else you need to know as we get started here. I'll see you in a few moments with my samples. Okie dokie. So I've worked up some samples. They're all 7 centimeters, as you can see here. We're starting at the 1, going to the 7, the 10 going to the 17, and the 20 going to the 27. So I keep one fresh off the hook. I'll put one in the washer, one in the dryer, and we'll see what happens to the Diva. I've worked up a little stitch sampler here. I hope that you can see that. Got my nails done, aren't they pretty? If you are in Germany and you need somebody to do wonderful nails for you, I highly recommend Cindy at Corporate Cult in Tautenheim. Shout out to Cindy. Great job, girl. And I thought I'd frog it. So you can see it has amazing stitch definition. Started with my chain, row of singles, half doubles, doubles, trebles, single, bobbles, single. So the bobbles you don't see so well head on, but you can really see the anatomy of the bobble. So that's neither here nor there. I expect this to go beautifully, having worked with it a bunch, but as you can see, there's just nothing that is. I'm just going as fast as I can. This wasn't just done, this has sat for a while, but there is no fluff, no halo, and it's 100% acrylic, so frogs just as you would expect it to. So that's that. I'm going to go throw these in the washer and dryer, and let's see what happens. I will be back to you as fast as you can snap your fingers. Okay, so we're finished with washing and drying, and yeah, not as good as I hoped. You can see that it started out as 7 centimeters. In the washer, I didn't block this at the end, okay? So if I blocked it, we are probably still very close to the 7 centimeters, and we wouldn't have these wonky edges all around. So that's partially due to the not blocking. Though with an everyday kind of acrylic wear, I don't know that I want to have to block it every time. It depends on, how much I'm using and washing whatever it is I've made, right? If it's the shirt that I made for my daughter, I'm going to want to be able to wash it and not have to block it every time because she might wear it a lot and it might need to be washed a lot. If it's a blanket or something like that, blocking it out doesn't matter so much. And also part of this is because it is a small square. And so on a larger project, I don't know why I keep trying to say product. Maybe I'm thinking business minded, but I am never ever making stuff to sell. And I hope I don't have to use that clip later on somewhere. But but you can see I've lost a full centimeter here on the one that went into the dryer, which is very disappointing with 100% acrylic. Now, I will remind you, it does say do not wash dry, and like wash and dry. It does say that on the label, but 100% acrylic, I really feel like should be able to go in the washer and dryer regardless of what it says. But again, it's not false advertising because it's they say don't do it, and I did it. But that is disappointing to me. One, this is super soft now. It really is a soft drapey fabric, which would be great actually for garment use if you make your garments out of acrylic. And it would be really nice to see the top that I've made for my daughter out of this have this texture and drape to it. Pick it up. You can see it's super drapey in comparison. I mean, that's drapey, but it's not like this. You know what I mean? The washer comes out somewhere in the middle. So that's what we've got. But you can also see the color. It is very color fast. I have no fade on either of them and no pilling anywhere on them. So for 2 out of 3 things that I look for in this washer dryer test, it does well. Unfortunately, the thing it does not do well on is shrinkage. So keep that in mind. If you do want to make a garment out of it that you can put in the dryer, you just need more positive ease in your garment. Okay, so if you want, say, an inch of positive ease in the breast area, maybe make it with 2 inches positive ease and allow for that shrinkage. You can do a little bit of experimentation too if you wanted. But those are the results. Do with them as you will. So I made this little guy, and I don't know why I keep making amigurumi with yarns that are not easy to work with for amigurumi. At least for me. I had to use such a small hook with him. I used a 2mm, and my old eyes just had trouble, and I haven't stuffed them enough. And actually I was making something else, and I was already partway through when one of my kids told me, oh, I just love those little mini octopuses. And since I decided I am not making any more little tiny minis, I would switch and turn it into an octopus. So, and not perfectly shaped, and he's not perfectly stuffed, but it does help you see what this yarn would look like worked up in amigurumi. You can see we've got really good stitch definition. You can get very tight. You can probably get tighter than I did. I just don't have the kind of practice that it takes to work with yarn this thin and needles that small, and the tight tension that amigurumi really needs to be well done and look good. He would also look better if I'd put enough stuffing in his head, and I just didn't realize until after I'd closed him up that he looks like he's been on a diet in his head. But that's a stuffing issue, not a yarn issue. So that's my little guy, my little attempt at showing you what it could look like. You could certainly do a better job than I did here, especially if that is your particular talent and your particular craft. But I do think this would work well for amigurumi. So I made this shawl with, Helps if I look at you and not out the window. I made this shawl with the various greens. And I'm going to gift this to a special, she's not really his teacher. My sons, two of them have severe to moderate forms of autism. It's not easy to talk about because it's a spectrum and it presents differently in everybody, and I understand that, but we also still need to sort of give some idea of what it is we're talking about. And so her favorite color is green, and I had all those greens, so I decided I'd make her this shawl with the gradient. But then you can also see some of the stitch definition, what a worked up project looks like in it. This is based on a pattern by Olga Platava, I believe is how you say her name. I will link her tutorial for it below. She's a wonderful pattern designer and her tutorials are so easy to follow. I made some modifications just because of the color work that I was doing. Hers was a single color, so she didn't need sort of some extra rows in between the colors. These are actually two different color greens. I don't know if that is showing up on the camera, but you can see there's really nice stitch definition. The other thing I changed from her pattern was just the edging. Again, because of the color work, I just wanted to sort of make something flow a little better. So you can see I've done one edge in the bottom darkest color and the other edge in the top lightest color. So I thought of a whole lot of different things, and that's what I came to. Do you guys ever wonder, like, should you gift something as you're making it? The whole time I was making this, I was like, is this good enough to gift? Is it nice enough to gift? What do you think? If you say you don't think it's nice enough to gift, I'm not going to be offended. Because I have been going back and forth on it, and I gift almost everything I give, but this support person is so special that it needed to not just be good enough. It needed to be nice. And so the whole time I was making it, I was like, is this good enough? Is it not good enough? Is it going back and forth? Anyway, at the end, I think I am going to give it to her because I think the stitch does look quite pretty. She loves green, and there's so many different greens in here. And I think with so many greens like that, it almost makes it a neutral. You can wear it with so many different things, and it's light and sort of summery too. So something you could have with you in the evenings and that to put on once the cooler air comes. Anyway, that is a finished garment with it, and you can see what it looks like worked up. The other thing I will say is it is really nice to work with. There was no splitting. It just moved nicely on the hook. It was a breeze. It was a breeze to work with. A real pleasure. The only negative that I can think of is it did at points feel a little plasticky as I was working it up. That was the other reason that was making me think, is it good enough to gift? Is it good enough to give to this very special support person who has just been an angel for our family, like a real life living angel? That was part of my questioning, but she can't handle wool. So then I go to acrylic or cotton, and This is softer and silkier than cotton. Though there are some good cotton blends out there. There are. I have worked with some. Now I'm rambling. Okay, back to the review. Off the girl. And what was it like to work with? Well, I think my overall impressions were colored a little bit because I was doing a hook review at the same time I was making this top, and I was using a plastic hook, and that colored my overall experience. It wasn't too bad because I did the whole project in it, except when it came time to do the edging and the side ribbing, because I hate to switch hooks mid-project, even if it is a hook of the same size. I think there's still variation in. And I will say that I much preferred the project after I switched to my trusted Susan Bates aluminum inline hook. I was using an inline hook for the whole project, but it was a plastic hook. And so I did get some of that squeak that can happen when you're using an acrylic yarn, especially when you're using an acrylic yarn on a plastic hook. So I would certainly not recommend using this yarn with a plastic hook, because you will get some of that ick factor that comes from the combination of the two. But when I switched to my aluminum hook, I did not have that issue at all. It did move a little bit smoother as well, is because the plastic on the plastic, I think there was a little bit of drag. Not too bad, not anything that made me want to or force me to stop using the other hook. But that is definitely something of note, that I certainly would recommend using an aluminum hook with it rather than a wood hook or a plastic hook, because I think you would get drag with this yarn. It has extremely good stitch definition. I mean, you can really see the anatomy of a stitch, but it led to some of this unfortunateness where you can see where I've done increases and decreases, especially. They're very, well, to me, obvious. They show up really well on camera, more on camera than they do actually in person. But especially because I put my increases and decreases in random locations so that you don't end up with a sort of an artificial line in a garment, that they stand out sort of defeats the purpose of these sort of hidden increases and decreases. So that's a little disappointing. It almost has too much definition, if that could actually be a thing. So that in itself was disappointing. Other than that, like, it was very nice yarn to work with. I have worked with a lot of balls of it and didn't encounter very many, if any, factory knots. I'm having trouble remembering back. I've done so many projects now with this yarn because I bought so much of it. But it's a very thorough review with 3 finished objects. But I don't remember factory knots really. So it was very few, not enough to stick in my mind. So that's a very good thing, especially because you do get a lot of meterage on a single skein. That is another benefit when you're doing, if you are making a garment or that, you get a lot of mileage out of a skein. So this one I did have to wait because I had one ball of all three colors, but when I decided to take, so I've done 2 rows of half double crochets in the lightest and the darkest color. And then it was just one single row of, no, one row of single crochet in the medium color, but I did all of the back in the medium color. And of course, because of natural body shape, the back is actually longer than the front. I did that rather than doing short rows because I seamed the sides, so I could seam it anywhere I wanted. But you can sort of see it when it's sideways here, that there's more in the back to account for that natural slope of the back. Anyway, I just needed this much more yarn, and so I did have to wait for that other skein to come in. But I still have, more than half a skein of the other colors, including the darkest color, which is what I used on the sides and the edging. I did do a little ribbed edging to just make it easier to get on and off, since I did fit it to her figure. And it is a little fitted crop top, as the teenagers like at the moment. So that's the final finished object. What do I say about this yarn overall? It is, for an acrylic, it is a decent yarn. It is more on the silky soft side than it is the cozy soft side. Acrylic can go either way, but it is not scratchy. And I think that's the danger with acrylic. If you go either side on the soft, you're okay. But when you get into the scratchy, which I like to call value acrylic, it's definitely not in that category. But it is this more smooth kind of acrylic, which I do think brings out the plasticky elements of acrylic a little bit more than sort of a fuzzy or cozy kind of soft acrylic. And I'm not sure what that will be like for wearing. It does have, just, you can feel it a little bit more even in the finished fabric. Just very, very slight plasticky feel. It's not overwhelming. It's not, it's not uncomfortable. I am wondering more about breathability. So if you were making, say, a summer top with it, and it is a sport weight acrylic, so would be a good yarn for garments because it will give you the drape. It will keep your fabric thin. So I did use it for a summer garment. I mean, she can wear it in the winter too with a hoodie over it. That's also possible. She's doing that a lot. Seems to be the style at the moment. Not that I know anything about current styles, but having it sitting on my lap right now, I can feel the heat being sort of held in. Like, this part of me is clearly warmer. This doesn't sound a nice thing to say, but like a moist warmer. So there's just not a lot of breathability to it. So I have done several different things with this yarn, trying to figure out what's it for. Like, what is the purpose of this sport weight acrylic? And I really do think that it's got sort of that garment making idea in mind because of the weight of it. because of the sort of silky smoothness of it. But I don't think it would be my first choice. I know it won't be my first choice. I probably will not make another garment out of this. In fact, I have very little of it left after all of my project making. And then I did gift a couple of skeins to my son's school for their fiber program. So I actually don't have very much of it left, and it will probably end up in some kind of scrappy project sometime in the future. It's a reasonable price. It is a nice feeling acrylic. There was not a lot of defect in the yarn itself. It moved well on the hook. It has really good stitch definition. These are all positives, right? So we have that on one side. So, you know, when I bought every green that they had, I was thinking this is going to become my go-to acrylic yarn. It's not. It's not. Could it be somebody's go-to acrylic yarn? Could be. Could be. So I think at the end of the day, I'm going to give it a B-. I do think it's a little bit above average for an acrylic, for the category of yarn it's in. I do think it's a little bit above average, so pumping it up over the C category. It's not as special as I was hoping it would be. And I'm probably not going to purchase it again. So I'm giving it a B-. If you have enjoyed all of this finished objects, playing around, seeing what we can use this yarn for, please subscribe. That would help me out a lot. If you give it a thumbs up, that would also be helpful. If you have any questions that I didn't answer, go ahead and ask in the comments. I always respond to comments because there's really not much in life I like more than chatting about yarn, and nobody here wants to hear it anymore. No, they are done. They're like, that's nice. That's nice. So if you want to chat yarn with me, I'm more than happy. Please feel free to leave a comment. And I hope I see you next week for the next review.